It was 4:12 a.m. in Detroit, Michigan, when a factory worker ended his graveyard shift, walked past the security gates, and disappeared into the fog. His steel-toed boots clinked on the pavement, a lunchbox swinging in his hand. But inside that lunchbox wasn't leftovers or tools. It was $9 million in cartel cash, carefully bundled and smuggled right under everyone's nose. By the time the sun rose, the man was gone. His tiny apartment abandoned, his locker at work empty, his bank account untouched. The FBI would spend years chasing his ghost, while the cartel left a trail of broken bodies trying to find who had humiliated them. This is the story of the factory worker who pulled off one of the boldest inside jobs in U.S. history and vanished overnight. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, share this story with someone who loves true crime, and drop your thoughts and comments at the end, because this case will leave you questioning just how invisible an ordinary man can be. His name was Robert Bobby Lane, 32 years old. To everyone around him, he was the definition of ordinary. Bobby worked long shifts at a steel parts factory on the east side of Detroit. He wore the same faded work jacket every day, clocked in on time, and kept his head down. He lived in a rundown duplex, drove an old Chevy pickup that rattled when it idled, and spent his free hours tinkering the garage or watching old boxing matches on VHS. He didn't drink much, didn't have many friends, and never made waves. To his co-workers, Bobby was the quiet guy on line 4, forgettable. But beneath that plain exterior was a man carrying scars. Years earlier, Bobby's father had worked the same factory job until he got tangled with a loan shark tied to the cartel. When payments fell behind, his father was beaten so badly he never fully recovered. Bobby, just a teenager at the time, swore he'd never let anyone control him the way they controlled his father. What no one knew was that Bobby had been watching. While most men on the floor just worried about their hourly wage, Bobby paid attention to the strange shipments that arrived late at night. Crates marked as machine parts that never matched the manifests. Forklifts that moved them to a lock bay only certain managers had access to. Security guards who always looked nervous but never asked questions. Bobby suspected what was happening. The factory wasn't just producing steel. It was doubling as a cartel laundering hub. Crates of dirty cash came in disguise as supplies, stored temporarily, and later shipped out clean, mixed with legitimate goods. And in the middle of it all was a chance, a hole in their system. For years, he studied the routines. Guards rotated every 2 hours. Cameras left blind spots along the western exit. And most importantly, every Friday, around 3 a.m., fresh shipments came in. Security focused on intake, not on what was leaving. If someone wanted to smuggle something out, nobody would notice. Bobby began planning in silence. He bought an old metal lunchbox at a thrift store, then reinforced it inside with hidden compartments. Over weeks, he tested how much cash he could fit without raising suspicion. A single box could hold nearly $500,000 in bundled bills. He paced himself. At first, he slipped out small stacks, always careful to hide them in places no one would search. False walls in his garage, pipes sealed shut in the basement, even buried containers in a vacant lot down the street. To co-workers, nothing changed. But Bobby was building towards something bigger. Then came the night he made his move. September 18th, 2017. The factory floor hummed with machinery. Sparks flew as men welded parts. The smell of burnt steel thick in the air. Bobby worked his shift like any other, nodding co-workers, punching out for a quick smoke break, eating his sandwich by the loading dock. But that night, his lunchbox was heavier. At 3:12 a.m., a shipment rolled in. Security swarmed the intake, distracted. Bobby slipped away, walking calmly to the restricted bay. He had memorized the keypad code weeks earlier by watching over a supervisor's shoulder. With a steady hand, he punched it in and stepped inside. Stacks of cash, millions bundled neatly, fresh from cartel accountants. Bobby's pulse hammered. He worked quickly, stuffing bundle after bundle into his lunchbox until it weighed almost 20 pounds. He snapped it shut, wiped his hands, and walked out like nothing had happened. At 4:12 a.m., he clocked out. Cameras caught nothing unusual. Just a tired man, leaving work after another graveyard shift. He waved at the guard, tossed his lunchbox into the truck, and drove into the fog. By 7 a.m., Bobby Lane was gone. The discovery hit like a bomb. When cartel handlers arrived that weekend and found millions missing, panic set in. At first, they suspected sloppy accounting. But when security logs revealed that only one man had access during that window, the realization spread. Someone had stolen from them, and not just anyone, a factory worker, a nobody. The cartel erupted in rage. Managers were dragged from their homes. Guards were interrogated, some never seen again. Word spread on the streets that the bosses had put out a contract, find the thief, or everyone involved would pay. Meanwhile, the FBI had caught wind to a $9 million theft tide. The cartel laundering couldn't be ignored. They began tracing currency, interviewing workers, leaning on informants. But Bobby had vanished cleanly. His apartment? Empty. No clothes, no photos, no signs of struggle. His truck was later found abandoned at a Greyhound bus station, wiped of prints. What neither the FBI nor the cartel knew was that Bobby had planned his disappearance as carefully as the theft itself. Weeks earlier, he'd created a new identity using documents bought off the dark web. He'd scouted escape routes, even memorized freight train schedules. The first solid lead came 6 months later. A man matching Bobby's description was spotted in a motel in Tulsa, Oklahoma. By the time agents arrived, the room was empty. On the nightstand sat a rusted lunchbox, but inside was nothing but scraps of old newspaper. Whether Bobby left it as a taunt or a decoy remains unknown. In 2019, cartel sources swore they had tracked him to a small border town in New Mexico. They raided a trailer at 2:47 a.m., spraying it with bullets. But when the smoke cleared, the trailer was empty, just a coffee pot still warm and a boxing match playing on a dusty TV. Bobby had slipped through their fingers again. The FBI's best chance came in 2021, when $20,000 in marked bills from the heist surfaced in Colorado. Surveillance footage from a hardware store showed a man with a baseball cap, paying cash for supplies. He looked older, thinner, with a beard, but when agents followed the lead, it vanished into mountains. And then silence. Theories abound. Some believe Bobby lives off the grid in rural America, surviving quietly with caches of money buried across states. Others insist the cartel eventually caught him, burying his body in a shallow grave while covering up the evidence. A few even speculate that Bobby never intended to spend the money, that it was revenge, pure and simple, payback for what the cartel did to his father. The cash was just a weapon to humiliate them. But the truth? It remains a mystery. $9 million. One ordinary man. And a trail that leads nowhere. To this day, the FBI keeps his file open. The cartel still whispers his name like a curse. But Robert Bobby Lane, the quiet factory worker who carried out one of the most daring inside jobs in cartel history, remains a ghost. So what do you think? Did Bobby escape with a perfect plan, living under a new identity in peace? Or did the cartel catch him, erasing all trace? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who loves true crime as much as you do. Because more chilling cases are on the way, and you won't want to miss them.